I'm gonna completely level with y'all. I don't have a fun, quirky, or interesting way to start this video, so we're just gonna get into it. I have a set of pastel color alcohol markers, so I'm gonna be making a drawing using only those. That's what we're doing. By the time I am posting this video, it should be approaching Valentine's Day, so I think it would be fun to make an illustration, one with these soft pastel colors, but two, also with a lot of like pinks and reds and whatnot. I have this set of pastel colored Arrtx markers. They were sent to me, but I am not being paid to say anything in this video. Y'all know the drill, etc, etc. Arrtx has been a friend of the channel for quite a while now, so thank you to them for always being so supportive of me, and also you guys, because they are providing a discount code if you would like to get this set. But I have a pretty strong idea of what I want to make with these. I am still going to plan out the illustration in my sketchbook, but for starters, I wanted to draw my character Arietta. I think these colors suit her very well. The markers themselves are dual tip of bullet nib and chisel nib, and since they don't have a brush nib, I wanted to work a bit smaller. I do have a pretty strong idea of what I want to draw, so I'm just going to plot out the drawing here and then test out the markers. This is definitely going to be a challenge for me in a number of ways, because one, I typically gravitate towards super bright, saturated colors, so the fact that I am going with this more subtle, I guess, color palette is going to be a challenge for me, but also because since these colors are so light, what I wanted to do is I wanted to not put my clip on my sketchbook properly, so then the way it falls off. I love doing line art. It's one of my favorite things, but because of how soft these colors are, I wanted to try completely foregoing line art. I plan on sketching my illustration, going straight in with markers, and then once I am done, go in with a colored pencil and use that to define some areas that need a bit more definition. Basically, my plan was I wanted to have like a more zoomed in headshot, and then she's like doing heart hands over here. Be nice and simple, and something I can do like small without losing the detail that I like to get. It does mean that there's less of an outfit to draw, which if you know me, I love drawing an outfit. That's how it would be, right? Yeah. Fingers would be facing outwards. What if I made it more like kind of at an angle? I think that would fill in the space a little bit better. In terms of how the arms go, that's not really my business. I don't think there would be like a super big expression because she is not one to really do grand expressions. Actually, what if since I'm not doing too much of an outfit, since most of it's not in frame, what if I like tucked her bit of her hair behind her ear? I think that'll help create a bit of interest. I don't really know what to do with this space up here. Why did I do that like I was doing digital art? Now I gotta erase it. Very smart man that I am. There isn't too many reds. Actually, I don't think there's any reds in here. Pastel red is just kind of pink. I do think that it's neat. This case can stand on its own. I truly don't think I could show it in camera. I'm just gonna have to take a picture of it to show y'all. I will say, if you are using exclusively this set, you are very limited on skin tones, which makes sense because it's a pastel set. That's just how pastel colors work. So of course, the skin goes where the skin is. And then the set does come with a colorless blender, so I'll probably use that and this lighter one to make where the highlights are. For the first layer of shading, I'll use another skin tone, and then for the next one I'll get a little bit more creative with the color I use. I might try to add a bit of blush, but I'm not too worried about it since I am going to use colored pencils. Oh, there's one called Blush. Perfect. That actually looks great for her. But I do really like that it came with this swatch sheet, and also it came with like 2 squares so you can like layer them on, just so you can get like the full range of what colors one single marker can get. I should also test if it's better to put the purple or brown down first. Yeah, I did mention that there aren't a lot of reds, but also her eyes are red, so that's going to be an issue. The closest one to red is this one. There's this light orange I can probably take advantage of. And on that, I'm going to have to get a bit creative. I think I am just going to have to do my best with these markers and then touch up with colored pencils. You know, I'm already struggling a bit with getting used to these colors. They're pastel, they're going to be light. It just it goes against everything I am used to when I make art. But on the bright side, alcohol markers tend to really struggle with these super light colors, but these ones do it really well. Oh yeah, that is a perfect color for her hair. This does also work very well for shading number 1, but I'm a little worried about shading number 2. How's this? Okay, that one works better. Cool, we got the easy part done. Do I want to go with purples or do I want to go with blues? I feel like purple suits Valentine's Day more if that's the theme that we're going with. So before I put any colors down, I wanted to experiment with how a bunch of colors layer on top of each other. Let me write down these colors so I don't forget. 1, 2, 3, I really made them merge together, didn't I? Next, I want to see what happens if I use just mostly purples. Okay. So if I layer these on top, I can get a pretty dark thing. I do kind of want a warmer color in the highlights, just to try and help bring that pink throughout the drawing more. I think I'm just gonna have to use the blue. I think that's just the only way to really get the contrast I'm looking for. And I do kind of like having this random light blue in there. It gives like a nice shiny effect. I would like to test how the colorless blender interacts with this color specifically, because I would like this to be a little bit lighter in some areas. I will say it is a bit strange that they added black to this set. I generally really like the colors, but that would probably be my one color complaint. Colorless blender makes sense because a lot of these colors are super bright, so it's assuming you're working with a light palette, and the main way I use colorless blenders is to blend a super light color into white. Ooh, what if I used a yellow for the highlight? That might be fun. Oh, maybe I can add some to the hair too, just so it's not like, yeah, I could get like that like warm light line effect. Like, let's say I am rendering hand. Do I like this? I think in theory it was fun, but in practice I don't really like. I think I prefer to have like the pinker highlights. Ooh. Ooh. Love it. That does help create a darker purple, which I don't know why I didn't think to do that. It's like one of the most basic color things, but you know what? We got there eventually, and that's what counts. I really just like the effect of how some artists, like in the middle of their shading, have like a bright, just a lighter desaturated color. And that's something I've been trying to do, but I have not found many people willing to explain how they do it. So if anyone can point me to some resources, that'd be great. Oh, this is really pretty. Oh, I like it. I like it a lot. I do also have ideas of how I can decorate this. Here, no idea. But I have this ribbon. I think it would be fun to like sew that. I'll have to figure out how to do it. I might make like another frame of like with like some cheaper paper that's like the same size as this, sew it onto that, and then glue it, because if I sew it directly onto this, obviously the stitching would be around, which I don't think would be a bad effect. I'm just not sure if it's an effect I want, because I'm not confident I'd be able to make the stitches even. If I was confident I could make the stitches even, absolutely. Which, by the way, I feel like I might get questions about it. The sketchbook is something I made. It was an old book I got from like a thrift store or a flea market or something. I gutted the pages and sewed pages in it, and I decorated it. If you would like to have a video about how I made it, or I walked you through that process, let me know. When I used to do primarily traditional art, I would work smaller a lot more often, and then over the years I've just been wanting to work bigger and bigger and bigger. So I feel like it's been a while since I've worked this small. Probably gonna take a picture of my own hands. Look at how pained I look in this photo. A few thin strands that didn't get tucked behind her ear. I have to get enough base. I wonder if her hands are a bit big. I might need to shrink them down. And then after I do this sketch, I do want to clean it up as much as possible to get rid of any stray pencil smears. I am still going to lighten it up with a kneaded eraser, but I don't know if you noticed in my sketchbook, alcohol markers tend to smear pencil lead a little bit, especially if it's like a lighter color. And that's not something that was just these markers. I've always had that experience with alcohol markers. I literally just did heart pupils in my last drawing. Do I do them again? It's Valentine's Day. I gotta. If I am gonna do heart pupils, I do think I want to change the mouth. It's way too similar to the drawing I just did. I don't want to do that again. For the sake of saving time in my drawings, I have been going pretty loose and like less clean with my sketches, but I do think for this drawing in particular, I am gonna have to do a pretty clean sketch since I am foregoing line art. I imagined this bow being a hair clip too, and I'm making it more like, I need to make it simpler, so that way it reads as a hair clip and not a real bow. I'm a real bow. Pinocchio AU, where instead of a puppet, he's a bow. But he's like a fake bow. He's like a hair clip bow, and then he gets turned into like real ribbon bow. You know, I usually draw her hair tied back, but I'm kind of feeling, I just had it down. Just feel like the back of her head is too small. I feel like the back looks good. I feel like the top needs to be down a little bit more. I think I'm adding too much detail to this pinky right off the gate. Right off the gate, right out the gate, right off the bat. How is this hand too small? I think this hand is too small. Man. Okay, I think that's a good size. Finally. Okay, so I think the pinky was actually fine. It was the rest of the fingers that were not fine. The thing about this hand doesn't look right, even though I followed the reference. It looks less like a heart and more like she's going like, eat. Confidence in drawing hands is this big. Oh, and my camera's dying. Of course it is. This is fine. I'm gonna go let that charge. Maybe take a different reference photo. Maybe I'll plot out some basic shapes of it off camera. I don't know. Okay, I have a confession. I started over. I was working on this off camera. I was trying to make it work and I did not like the way it was coming out. Like I mentioned, I didn't like the back of her head. I was really struggling with the hands. I wasn't liking how this was coming along. And so I was trying to tweak this one. It just was not working. And so I was like, okay, well, let me start over. And I immediately liked the way that this was coming out better. I drew up to where I left off here, so then that way you don't have to see me draw like the face and everything again. But I changed the hand pose slightly, and then I blocked that in, and then I tilted her head a tiny bit also. And I think that makes a little bit more visual interest with like how her hair lies on her face and everything. And then in the mock-up that I did, I really like this yellowy effect on the hair, and that's because I was going to add it to the clothing, but then I didn't like that, but I still want to add that, and so to keep that yellow in the drawing, I added some like bracelets and whatnot, and I'm going to color in some of the berets that color. I also have been tidying up the sketch as I go, so hopefully it'll be easier to do once I get around to finishing this up. In the first attempt, I was also trying to draw her hair down, and I that's just another thing I could not get to work since I was struggling with the shape of the head. Just from like the rough sketch I did of this one, immediately I was liking it so much more, which is a bummer because that means I didn't record it. Let's add a few rings on these fingers to tie in that pale yellow color, although it did occur to me that I didn't know. I didn't write down which one I used, so I'm gonna have to find that again. But that's fine. There's only so many markers in that set. Okay, in my head, she's wearing like a really thick, chunky bracelet, but I feel like there's something about it in the sketch that looks a little... Maybe I just need it to be like more like that. I also still don't love this part of the hair right there, but I think I might just take the L on that. I don't... With how much I've been struggling with this drawing, surprisingly, I think I'm just gonna leave that as it is. I don't know why I'm struggling. Like, this is exactly the type of things that I like to draw. Just a cute girl being cute. And for some reason, my brain is like, no, you can't be doing that today. In my reference, the hand goes like that, but I'm just gonna make the executive decision that that's not what it looks like, because it just looks so strange in this drawing. Since this is a very hand-centric drawing, I do think Arrtx was a good subject matter. Like many artists out there, if I am doing a very hand-centric drawing, I use my own hands as reference, but the problem with that is that I have really small hands, if you couldn't tell. And Arrtx is like a more petite character, because I've had issues before where I really struggle with a hand pose, and so I try to use my own hand as reference. By doing that, I can draw a hand that looks good, but then the character doesn't have small hands. So I really gotta learn how to like translate hand proportions. It needs to actually be brought down a bit. I feel like how this pose is, hunching her shoulder up. I always have a habit of hunching the shoulders up, although I feel like for this pose to make sense, it needs to be more relaxed just because her hands are all the way over here. Cool, I think we're ready for color. And this is where the fun begins, because I was clearly not having fun before. Never felt so betrayed by a character. Arrtx, you were supposed to save me. Make this easy for me. Let's go. Let's go. Yeah, these markers are going down a bit darker on the cardstock. Yeah, my sketchbook, they went down much more like this color, but then on the cardstock, the first layer looks a bit more like that color. So basically, using it on cardstock makes it look like I went over it twice already, which might actually work to my advantage since I was struggling with some contrast. Kind of wish I left a white highlight on her cheek, but I could. If I'm gonna go in with colored pencils and everything after, I could probably do it then. But this is interesting. Normally the colorless blenders, if you layer them on top, it lifts the color a lot, but I feel like this one isn't doing it that much. It is pretty funny that I was like, I need super saturated colors, so I'm gonna be struggling with the darker colors. But then here, the thing I'm trying to do is to make an even lighter color. I do kind of wish these had a brush nib. Taking a peek on the Arrtx website, some of their sets do have brush nibs, but I'm pretty sure it's just completely dependent on like you can't get this specific set with a brush nib, I'm pretty sure. Like the brush nibs will have different colors. I do wonder what the decision making is of like which colors will get a brush nib and which one will get a bullet nib. I also know nothing about their other sets, so it is possible that some sets have similar colors in it, so like maybe this specific marker also happens to be in a different set. I don't know. When I do alcohol mark my favorite art supply, alcohol markers. When I work with alcohol markers, I rely so much on feather blending. And it's not impossible to do with bullet nibs, but it is a lot harder to do with bullet nibs. Bullet nibs are used to get like the fine areas. Chisel nibs are used to get like the big areas. And then I feel like brush nibs are just like the best of both worlds and more. Although I will say, for bullet nibs, they are blending pretty nicely. I'm really reluctant to add this blush color in the highlight area. I'm so scared of that. These areas would be dark, and I'm trying to figure out how the neck would work from this light source. Yeah, I think that looks good enough. I think I need to let that ink sit a bit more before I can go in and layer it again. I do really love how these two markers blend together. I feel like they're making such a nice skin tone shading color, so I can get a bit of a darker tone if I'm just patient, which I notoriously am. I love adding shadows to like strands of hair, like right here and like up here. I really like it. I think it adds so much depth to a drawing. You know, it's dawning on me I should have put a piece of paper under this. Not that I'm worried about bleed through, because I'm using a pretty heavy piece of cardstock, just because I'm gonna get marker on my desk because this drawing goes right to the edge. I might go over this one more time, but after that I think that's about as dark as it can get. I probably could have stood it to go even smaller with this drawing. Like, it's definitely smaller than the last traditional illustration I did. I feel like I still could have gone smaller, just because I feel like with bullet nibs, smaller is better, because you're a lot less likely to get streakiness. I don't think that the streakiness is too bad, especially since the colors are light, so you don't really notice them nearly as much. And then up here, where the collarbone dips, it would be a bit darker. I realized I completely skipped over the ear. I'm just like, that's not a problem for me right now. I'm gonna be so honest, I don't know how ears work. I just make it up. That's all I've ever done with ears, is just make it up. Oh, the wrong marker. That's fine. We all make mistakes. Even I, person on the internet, make mistake. Leave a comment about the last mistake you made. I'm trying to find this collarbone a little bit more. I feel like I kind of got lost here. It's very important to know where your collarbone is at all times. I fractured my collarbone when I was little. Have I ever told you all that? It's the first day of summer vacation. And by that I mean I literally got out of school earlier that day to start summer vacation. The story itself is not that interesting. It's just that's how I learned why people say you shouldn't run in flip-flops. I really did not. I was not careful with staying inside the lines of this. I'm just gonna blame that on not having line art. It's not my fault. I've never made a mistake in my life. We all make mistakes. Even I, person on the internet, make a mistake. Honestly, I don't know if this shoulder really needs anything else. I need to add a bit of shading like right here, but for the most part, since it's so close to the light source, I don't think there would be much to do. Yeah, I think that's the closest I'm gonna get to red with this set, and I am most definitely gonna have to touch these eyes up with colored pencils when I get there. Not that these look bad, they're just not quite dry colors. Okay, hair time. I think this is the yellow that I used. Not 100% sure, but you know, it is what it is, I guess. I think to start, I'll add like this mid-tone and then do a bit of blending with the lighter one where it's necessary. And then I'll go in and do the big bright highlight on top. Maybe down here in this section, there'd be a lot of dark shading. And then up here, I think there'd be a tiny bit. For the hair back here, I actually want it to be very light, so I'll just go straight in with this teeny tiny bit of the dark color up here, and then the rest will be light. The very back parts of here should be, oh, that's the wrong marker, that was almost really bad. We all make mistakes. Even I, person on the internet, make a mistake. It's still the wrong marker, that still would have been really bad. We all make mistakes. I will say I am super thrilled with these colors as her hair. This is exactly what her hair looks like. These are exactly her colors. I really don't want this hair back here to be too dark. I've seen some artists do a thing where like the further back something is in the drawing, the lighter it is, and that's kind of the effect I want to give with that chunk of hair right there, especially because it is so close to the light source. I actually want this part to be pretty bright too. I might add some of the darker color towards the bottom of this strand, but I think to help it stand out from the rest of her hair in the back. Funny thing about Arrtx is that, so I've had her for years. I made her as a character when I was like 13, 14, around there. And she's gone through some changes naturally, but for the most part, the core of her design has stayed the same. Like whenever I redesign her, it's mostly in her outfit. She's always had the super long pink hair and red eyes. And I bring this up because I had this was a while ago at this point, but for the sake of explaining it, I'm gonna say recently, I found an artist that I started to follow who has an OC that looks a lot like her, and it's always such a funny thing when that happens as an artist, because it's like, I had no idea who she was until recently. I'm pretty sure she has no idea who I am, and yet we have an OC that looks so similar. And I've found people with like similar characters to mine, but this is the first one where I was like, oh my god. So Rosu, if you're watching this, our characters should hang out sometime. They can bond over how identical they look. You also think after this is when I want to start adding in some of the yellow touches to her hair. I don't want to add too much of this, just a touch here and there. I love rendering hair. I think it's the one thing that will always be fun for me. And now here comes the part of the drawing where I start to struggle because I can't use super dark colors. It's also the part of the drawing where I start to drop markers on the drawing itself. I think one of the hardest things about me using these markers is that sometimes if you need to layer them more, you just gotta give it a second. I'm so impatient. I think this part here looks a bit strange to me, but I think adding some highlights with some colored pencils once I get there will really help. Yeah, it's a good job, me. Can you imagine if I actually successfully colored with the cap on and then just didn't acknowledge it? Let's see for the hair back here. I think I just want to stick to using these two, and I'll layer them. I'll avoid using them darker colors. I have noticed with these markers, since they are very pastel, I'm having a harder time figuring out when something is done. Like, I don't think I particularly have an issue with like over-rendering, but because these are lighter colors, it means I'm not getting like the contrast that I would normally get. That makes sense because they're pastels. They're pastel colors, but oh boy, is it hard for my stupid little monkey brain to wrap around that thought. Stupid little monkey brain. I also had a hard time finishing that sentence, so I hope it made sense. I think it's coming out okay though, for being pretty out of my comfort zone. That's the part I was excited for. Let's hope I don't mess it up. I'll see if I can fix that. Back here generally would be pretty dark, but I do want to try and have it be lighter where the hair is like closer to the hair tie. You know, I'm not gonna lie, when I first started rendering the hair, I was not very confident in the art that I would make here today, but I think it's coming along nice. I would definitely need a lot more practice with like using exclusively a color palette like this, because there's a lot that I am learning like on the spot. For example, when too much is too much, like right here. I just think that like the main thing that I need to work on for a color palette like this is just forcing my brain to accept I can't do bright saturated colors and also dark contrast. It's just, that's not how these markers work. It's not how they're made. They're pastel colors, and I know that, and yet my brain is still, no, surely it'll work if you just keep layering. No, I think I do want to go dark back here in order to make the part of her hair that's like tucked behind her ear, in order to make that stand out. I think I want to go dark here. We don't gotta talk about that. Listen, we don't gotta talk about that. It's fine, I can fix this. There we go. I love alcohol markers, and I've been using them for a long time. Some of y'all probably know this. I am a way too clumsy of a person to use alcohol markers. I feel like I've only proved that to be true time and time again. So close to finishing the hair. Just this little section down here that I'm honestly not even that thrilled with, but it's part of the drawing, so I gotta finish it. In case nobody look too closely at this part. We can all agree to do that, right? Shake your hand. Don't investigate this section. Don't you zoom on your screen. Don't you screenshot and crop it. Just mind your business. What's that again? I need to learn to stop dropping my marker. That's never gonna happen. Literally just the other day, I spilled chai tea all over the notebook I was using. You can go back years on my channel to find me spilling coffee. I truly never will change or improve as a person. Every time I draw one of my OCs, I wonder if they know there's a good chance I'm gonna spill my drink on them. I mean, the answer's no, because they're paper and not real. But still, I can wonder. I can have whimsy. I think I want to add a bit of this, like, bright pink to her eyelashes. Do you know what that means? Yay, it's been so long since I've shoved my head directly in frame. Did you guys miss it? Are we starting to get concerned. And I don't want to overdo it, so I'm just going to leave the rest of that for when I do colored pencils. Bleed check. Yeah, when you go super heavy, it like bleeds through, but generally, since these colors are super light, you mostly just get some ghosting with the occasional bleed through on where you go heavy-handed. For wondering, wondering, for wondering the clothing. Let me use these first, because there's less of the yellow bits I'm going to be adding. I want this to be this tan color, and then I wanted the bow on this clip to be purple, but I wanted the clip itself to be this yellowish tan. Do I want the heart to be tan and the clip to be purple, or vice versa? We'll make the heart purple, and then I can make that heart earring purple. I don't know if it makes sense for this part to be light, but I'm gonna make it light anyway. Since this isn't something that I really tested in the thumbnail, I have no idea what colors I'm using to shade. I'm just fully picking random ones, I gotta be honest with you. I should find like a light purple, especially if they are supposed to be like, I don't know what material they are, but if they're supposedly like reflective and shiny, I think I'm gonna try doing these super pale, like almost gray. I don't want it to be like super purple. And then in her, for the ones in her hair, I can add some pink instead. As I am getting towards the end of this, in terms of alcohol marker using, I definitely want to go more purpley for the liner, but I don't know if I want it to lean more towards like red or blue, or if I should just go for pure purple. I think a big part of it will just depend on how the rendering of the dress comes out. Now, where to start with this? All right, it's stressful as it's gonna be, I do think I need to work on adding all of these out once, just because I do want them to be a little bit more blended. Wish me luck. Tell my wife I love her. I think I want it to be mostly blue and purple in the center, and then have this pinkish purple on the edge. I'm probably gonna save the hands for last, work on all the smaller bits first, gather my courage. Am I gaining confidence? Not really, no, I gotta be honest. Am I getting to the scary parts? Slowly but surely. Basically, anytime I'm about to color a spot that's not the tiniest section or a thin line, I'm gonna start panicking. I do think it also would have helped if I had like actually decided on a material, because I don't know what this dress is supposed to be made out of, I gotta be honest. If I actually knew what material I was trying to replicate, I could just look up references and that'll help. Although as I continue to work on this, I am sort of realizing my problem-solving skills, which is, do I want this dress to be more blue or more purple? And I was like, yeah. And I think that's how I got here. Is this patchy as hell? Yes. Does it make me worried about how the rest of this is gonna go? Yes. That's it, really. There's nothing else to say about it. Oh, as I'm working on this, I am wondering, like, is this something that would be easier to do with brush nibs, or is this just complicated in general? Because I feel like it's just complicated in general, I'm gonna be honest. Let me try and bring this purple out a little bit more. Maybe some more over here, and then have the blue be more towards the center. And then the fingers, I do have a bit more of a clear vision. I want more towards the tips of the fingers to be that purple. No, the blue. I know my colors. This hand is a lot more purple or pink than I envisioned it. I am getting my colors mixed up so much. Dealing with a lot of colors and also notoriously not speaking well is not a good combo, it turns out. Forgot a ring. Apparently I didn't like it because I did not put a ring on it. I darkened some bits up just a little bit. I don't think it can get too much darker than this, but I don't want it like terribly darker anyway. Okay, all things considered, I do think this hand turned out better than I was expecting. Oh, someone's angry. Let me guess, someone walked in front of your house, big guy. Another dog peed where you peed. Tough life out there, I know. I do think I want a little bit more pink on this finger just because of where it's positioned compared to the light source. Okay. Sometimes when I film videos and I do stuff like that, I'm just like, do people think I'm not having fun? I promise, I like art. I'm enjoying myself. Kind of like when you're playing a video game and you're at like a boss or something that is just absolutely kicking your ass, and you might get like frustrated, but also you're like, this is the greatest game ever to live. It's kind of like that. I think I like how the other hand came out more. But we're not done yet. Let's not give up. Think positively. Yeah, that other hand definitely, I like this one a lot more. But it's fine. It's fine, we're still not done. It's okay. In a way, this is also a bit of a trust the process piece for me, because I tend to go very clean with my work. My line art is very smooth and crisp. I tend to be very precise with my coloring, but here, there is no line art, which means it's a lot harder for me to be precise with my coloring. And I know that once I get around to colored pencils and white gel pen, I will be able to clean up some of those areas, but right now I'm just a little, dying on the inside, but it's fine. I'm working on it. I'm doing good, I think. I'd like to think so. I'd like to think this drawing has more good than bad. And yes, that is me fishing for compliments. Tell me I did a good job. Pat my little head. Give me a star sticker. From here on out, I do think I want to focus on each individual part of the hand a little more. Like fully render each piece as much as I possibly can with markers before moving on. Can't decide if I like this. Whatever, I came this far. I just gotta go. I think adding this dark bit up here helps a little bit. Would've been better if I had an idea of what this fabric was actually supposed to be. Miscellaneous reflective fabric. Okay, looking at it more, I think I like it. I think I like it more than I dislike it, at least. Should this part here also be dark? Well, I already started, so, like, gotta commit. I think I want to bring this lighter purple down a bit more. It just seems a bit too blue in that area. I need to separate this hair from this shirt, top, dress thing. And I know the way to do that is with the colored pencils later, but what am I if not impatient? What am I if not an artist? He's constantly making bad choices. I do think for right here, I'm gonna switch over to some of the lighter colors again. I feel like there'd be a bit too much contrast there. I feel like the clothing of this drawing is like the thing people were probably looking forward to most, given what my plan was for rendering for it, but I feel like most of it is gonna end up getting cut out because I am using all of my brain power to try to figure out how to render these. You know, all things considered, I think this turned out pretty good. It's pretty okay. So for the line art, I had two things I thought I could use. Something from this Prisma color set, because there's a lot of like colors that are suited. Specifically one of these, or something from this Arrtx set. I'm probably just gonna do a bunch of scribbles to see which color I like the most. I wonder if I should use a few different ones. I think I might use a combination of these three, maybe one more. This I will add after I add all the color pencils. Like, I don't want to overdo it, but also at the same time I feel like there's a lot of places that do need more definition. I guess I also could have done the line art in colored pencil and then just do my line art as I normally do, but sometimes I have issues with colored pencils where layering marker on top of them doesn't really work out that well. But I do guys now would be a good time to talk about my thoughts on these markers, huh? Overall, I did really like them. So if that's all you wanted to know, you can tune out now. When it comes to the set of markers on their own, I have a hard time at picturing myself using exclusively this set, but I also think that they are an incredibly valuable set to have. Yes, there is a downside of not having any brush nibs, but like I believe I mentioned before, something that these markers do very, very well is they get those super, super light tones. And a lot of the times markers have a really hard time doing that, especially the like more affordable alternatives. Like the go-to marker brand that people generally think of is Copic markers, right? People always see those as like the ideal markers, and I'm not gonna lie, it's for a good reason. I do love Copic markers. I don't think I will never not love Copic markers. But $8 per marker, a very steep price that not many people can afford, which is totally understandable. But one of the reasons that they are so revered is because of the range of colors. And that's something that a lot of alternative marker brands don't really nail. I did also just show off the Sanjoki markers on my channel recently, and I did generally have very positive things to say about that, but one of the complaints that I had is that they have a hard time getting the super light colors. So I do think it is a very impressive set of markers in that sense. Like, I can't picture me using exclusively this set for future illustrations, but as someone who does like to work with, I guess, more extreme lighting scenarios where there would be like super light spots on a drawing, I am absolutely going to be using this set in the future because it just does these super light tones so well. I do think if these had brush nibs, it would really take them to the next level, but I also understand that brush nibs tend to be more expensive to produce, at least I'm assuming. Arrtx does have markers with brush nibs, but I do believe they're more expensive because of that reason. But I am also pleasantly surprised at the color range that these markers tend to have while still being pastel colors exclusively, aside from that one black marker, which I still don't understand. Like, every marker set tends to have a few markers that seem a bit repetitive in colors, and this marker set is not exempt from that. But considering the fact that the theme is pastel colors, I was expecting there to be a lot more repetitive colors than there actually were, which was a very pleasant surprise. The ink itself did blend very nicely, which is definitely always welcome in general, but especially if a marker does not have a brush nib. Obviously, since this set of markers is pastel colors, your skin tones are limited. That's kind of to be expected with pastel colors, but it is something to keep in mind. When I do digital art, I always like to make the line art of the eyebrows and the eyes that go through the hair lighter, so then that way they're still defined, but I don't get to do that often with traditional art, and now it seems like the perfect opportunity. Full transparency, I recorded the rest of the line art off camera because I was going completely silent again, and I really want to finish this tonight. So I needed to save my battery life. There's a few things I would like to touch up though. Mostly just want to adjust the top part of her eyes, like up here where it gets a little bit grayish. And then of course wide highlights. And I do have a bit of an idea for how I want to decorate this thing. So up here I will definitely want harsher white highlights. So this I can use the gel pen for. And then I do want some highlights down here. But this I will use colored pencil for. I did also touch up this bracelet with some acrylic markers because I got a little misshapen in the process of me using the alcohol markers. I know that's what's probably everybody's favorite part of doing traditional art. Yes. Them eyes gotta be big, shiny, and beautiful. I definitely want to add more white highlights with the gel pen. Very good for this outfit. Highlight against the seam, which I do think is a big secret superpower for making clothes really pop in a drawing that you're rendering. So to decorate this, I thought I could draw a heart over here, use this to like fill the heart, and then I also have this like thin purple washi tape that I can use. And then I did also bring these. I don't know if I want to use them. I did also bring this ribbon. I'll probably sew it onto this one since I'm clearly not using it, and then glue it on top. I kind of don't want the heart to be like symmetrical. I want it to be a little more like that. I think I'm gonna put the heart down first and then add the thin purple washi tape after. I am also gonna try my best to keep the pattern consistent. Do I want it to be at an angle, or do I want it to be straight? I think an angle could be fun. Coming to a horrible realization that I need to trim the final row of each in order for the pattern to be consistent. Decorating my drawings with washi tape is something that I have done for a very long time now. And I do remember one time when I was at my dad's house when I was younger, I wanted to do this, and I asked him if he had an X-Acto knife. He was like, "What do you need an X-Acto knife for?" I was like, "For my washi tape." And he was like, "You need scissors, not an X-Acto knife." I'm just like, "Father, no. You don't see the vision." Go a little heavy-handed on the X-Acto knife. You can see somewhere I cut into the page, unless you can't see it on camera, in which case I have never made a mistake. I did a great job. And then I'll add one over here, because why not? Should I have added some of this over there? Maybe. I think I can still do that. And now comes the question, do I want to use any of these? Do any of these speak to me? No, I don't think so. I am totally down to add one of these. I just need to decide which one. I think I want one that leans more towards like the yellow cream color. I love the sounds these make. Listen to this. Why does that sound like Mr. Krabs? Now for this. Like, I'm a little concerned about when it wraps all the way around, how I'm going to make it blend in with itself. My camera is starting to get a little bit more low on battery, but I do want to show you the finished result. So I'll probably sew this in off camera and then check back in with y'all to put it together. Boom! Oh. Boom! This is the side where the two things connected, and honestly it looks a little bit more, I think you can definitely tell, but it does look more seamless than I thought it would, which is nice. I should probably use my Mod Podge, but I gotta be honest, this is more in reach, and I am what some people might call lazy. We're just gonna hope good old reliable Elmer's glue can get the job done. Goodbye, other Arietta. You will not be missed. I do think I want to trim some of this just to help it lay flat. We did it. Okay, how's the glue? It seems to be holding up okay. I'm probably gonna have to re-glue this at some point in my life, but that's the problem for future me. And yeah, this was super fun. Thank you all for tuning in and drawing this with me. Of course, thank you again to Arrtx for sending these to me, and your final reminder that there will be a discount code in the description. And also a thank you to my patrons, whose names are going on screen right now. If you are interested in becoming a part of my Patreon, which perks include on-screen thank yous like you're seeing now, early access to videos, monthly wallpapers and printables, etc., etc. You can also find that in the description box below. And be sure to let me know in the comments what you think about this drawing. I'm very thrilled with how it came out. I should also say that I will be taking a short break from YouTube, just because I have to catch up with like Patreon rewards and everything. But since I know I'm going to be taking a step back for a moment, I figured I would give you all a heads up instead of just vanishing from my channel for months at a time without warning like I tend to do. Hopefully it won't be that long of a break, but I got some work to catch up on. But I'll see you in the next one, whenever that may be. Bye.